August 2021. I was working as a freelance homestager for high-end real estate in the Pacific Northwest. It was a lucrative but lonely gig that involved moving into empty multi-million-dollar properties for a week at a time to make them look lived in and perfect for potential buyers. I had just started a 10-day contract at a remote glass-walled mansion perched on a cliffside overlooking the Puget Sound. On the second morning, I walked into the kitchen and found a steaming cup of Earl Grey tea sitting on the marble island, exactly how I take it, with 2 sugars and a splash of almond milk. I stood there in my pajamas, staring at the vapor rising from the ceramic mug. I live alone. I hadn't even unpacked my tea yet. I checked the heavy steel front door, but the deadbolt was still thrown from the inside. Every window was a sheet of reinforced glass that didn't even open. I told myself the realtor must have stopped by early, with a key, and tried to be hospitable, even though it felt like a massive violation of my privacy. I poured the tea down the drain. I didn't like the way the steam smelled. The house was a masterpiece of modern architecture, all black steel, concrete, and floor-to-ceiling glass. But being inside, it felt like living in a fishbowl. At night, the glass turned into a black mirror, reflecting nothing but my own movement against the backdrop of the dark forest outside. By day 3, the staging began to change. I had spent the previous afternoon meticulously arranging the master suite. But when I woke up, the book I'd placed on the nightstand, a vintage copy of The Great Gatsby, had been replaced. In its place was a leather-bound journal. I opened it, thinking it was a prop. The first 10 pages were filled with my own handwriting, or at least a perfect imitation of it. It was a detailed log of my movements from the day before. 8:45 a.m., subject enters kitchen. 9:12 a.m., subject spends 4 minutes staring at the tray line. My heart dropped into my stomach. I grabbed my phone to call my supervisor, but the screen was black. It wouldn't turn on. I tried the landline in the kitchen, but when I picked up the receiver, there was no dial tone, just the sound of someone breathing on the other end. I slammed the phone back onto the cradle and ran for the front door. I grabbed the handle and yanked. Nothing. The electronic lock had been engaged from a remote system. I was sealed in. I started hitting the glass with a heavy decorative bronze statue, but the reinforced panes didn't even chip. They were designed to withstand hurricane-force winds. I was trapped in a luxury cage. As the sun began to set, the house's smart lighting system began to dim automatically. I ran to the basement, thinking there might be a manual override for the security system. The basement was a cold, concrete bunker used for wine storage and the server racks that ran the house. That's where I found the staging room. It was a small, windowless office tucked behind the water heaters. Inside, there were 4 monitors displaying high-definition feeds of every room in the house. I saw myself on the screen, standing in the basement looking at the monitors, but it was the desk that made me physically ill. There was a wig that matched my hair color and length perfectly. There was a tray of high-end prosthetic makeup. And there, pinned to a corkboard, were hundreds of photos of me. Not just from the last 3 days. Photos of me at the grocery store 3 months ago. Photos of me sleeping in my actual apartment in the city. This wasn't a squatter. This was a long-term project. I heard a soft chime from the floor above. Whispering. The elevator. Someone was coming down. I looked around for a weapon, but the basement was empty of everything except heavy wine bottles. I grabbed a magnum of Cabernet and hid behind the heavy steel server rack. The elevator doors slid open with a soft hiss. I heard footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Deliberate. The person walked into the small office. From my vantage point, I could only see their back. They were wearing my favorite denim jacket. The one I thought I'd lost at a bar 2 weeks prior. They sat down at the desk and began to type. I watched the monitor over their shoulder. They were sending an email from my account. Hey Mom, I'm going to be staying at this coastal property for a few extra weeks. Reception is spotty, so don't worry if I don't pick up. Love you. My blood turned to ice. They weren't just watching me. They were clearing the path to replace me. I knew I only had one chance. I didn't wait for them to turn around. I lunged from behind the rack and swung the wine bottle with every bit of strength I had. The bottle shattered against the back of their head. They slumped forward onto the keyboard, a chaotic string of letters filling the screen. I didn't stay to see their face. I knew if I looked, I'd see something I could never unsee. I searched their pockets and found a master remote for the house. I frantically pressed the emergency unlock button. I heard the heavy thud of the front door's deadbolt retracting upstairs. I ran. I didn't take my car. I was afraid they'd tampered with it. I ran 3 miles down the dark, winding mountain road until I flagged down a passing logging truck. The police arrived at the mansion 2 hours later. The house was empty. The staging room in the basement had been wiped clean. No wigs, no photos, no computer. Even the shattered glass from the wine bottle had been swept up. The only thing they found was the leather-bound journal on the nightstand. But when the lead detective opened it, the pages were blank, every single one of them. The realtor who supposedly hired me, he didn't exist. The agency was a front that had been dissolved the day I arrived. I moved across the country a month later. I changed my name. I cut my hair. I don't work in real estate anymore. But 2 weeks ago, I received a package at my new unlisted address. There was no return label. Inside was a single ceramic mug. It was filled with Earl Grey tea leaves and a small handwritten note that said, "Wah, you're getting better at your lines. Scene 2 starts tomorrow." I haven't slept in my own bed since that package arrived. I stay in crowded motels, always paying in cash, always watching the mirrors. Because I realized something that night in the basement. I didn't just hit a stranger. When that person slumped over, I caught a glimpse of their hand. They had the exact same birthmark on their wrist that I do. Scared, whoever is out there. They aren't just trying to be me. They think they already are. And in their mind, I'm the intruder who needs to be staged out of existence. That's the reality of the world we live in. You think you're safe in your routine, in your own skin. But someone out there might be studying you right now, waiting for the perfect moment to step into your life and close the door behind them. Stay vigilant. Watch for the small changes. Because by the time you notice the tea is already made, it might already be too late. See you in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe.